Okay, students, so now we have all the epoxy resin mixed for the last coat, which is the 6th coat, and everything's cleaned off and we're ready to go ahead and pour. Now over here we have this one section that was recessed. I want to make sure that I have enough in there, so I'm just going to go ahead and start there first. But I do want to mention that I had put a level on here on the epoxy and on the pieces in the form to make sure everything was leveled out, so that way as it self-levels it's not tilted to one side or the other. Okay, that's pretty important. Okay, so now that we have all the epoxy resin poured into the form, it's going to self-level some here. What I want to do is like you remember, is we're going to go ahead and grab our heat gun, which I have at the ready, put it on hot, and I'm going to just go ahead and make sure all the bubbles pop, so that way we won't have any voids inside the finished product. We are going to have to sand this top layer with the wide belt sander, and the reason why I didn't want to put any color or any tint or any dye in it is because I don't want there to be a void from that in the surface. So the last coat, you always make sure when you're doing it with a manufacturing technique that requires several layers to do this, you want to make sure that the top layer doesn't have any coats in it or any color in it, so that way when you sand this flat, you're not sanding through it or bring it right to the top of the surface. You'll see why when we come to the last coat and the polishing. Once we polish this up, you'll really recognize why we do that the way we do it. I love the depth and clarity that we're getting in this. Okay, since this is hot, I'm just going to take this and set this in the floor for a little bit. So I'm going to bring you over here so you can see a little bit more of this in depth. So this is kind of the coloring that we're going to get. And then I love in this portion of this because you can really see different layers of the copper colored dye that was set in here. This section here with very little dye in it was done on purpose, that way you could see the actual edge of the material, the wood slab going down. I think it's a little bit more interesting that way. And then this is that void. So you can see how there's some bubbles still happening in here. But all I have to do is I'll come back here, like I said, typically after every one of these I do, 20 minutes later, I'll come back, I'll go ahead and use the heat gun again to bring up any bubbles that were left over that come out. Because you are going to get some bubbles that come out from the wood from any void that's in there. So what you want to do is come back with the heat gun in about 20 minutes. Usually it takes care of it. That's pretty much how we've done it in the past, and we've had a lot of success doing it that way. So this is how we get it. So now this is our last layer of epoxy resin for your epoxy resin creation top. And if you have any questions, go ahead, leave it in the comments. But to remember to go ahead and get an entry to win this, give me a thumbs up, and in the comments section put something that you learned, and then I'll enter you in to win. And I hope that you have a great day, and we'll see you a little bit later. Okay? Bye.